Today's episode is for anyone who feels like they're constantly arguing with themselves in their own mind. Perhaps you're caught between self-doubt and self-reassurance. And for anyone who's been doing the work to understand themselves, to heal, to break cycles, but you notice yourself having this kind of internal pull, this internal back and forth, then this episode is for you. It's for anyone who feels like they're fighting, perhaps that kind of angel and a devil. You're trying so hard to have that balance, to believe your new thoughts, more compassionate kind of thoughts. But this critical other voice keeps coming in and kind of pulling you away. And sometimes feeling like it's undoing the hard work. I don't believe that's the case, but I know it can feel like that. It can feel like you're having this internal battle. Welcome to Lessons in Self-Worth. I'm Carly-Ann, a therapist and coach, a modern day CBT practitioner, if you like, which means first I can help you formulate what is keeping your main cycle and patterns going, and then we can choose the support and techniques that are unique to your problem. This space, this podcast is for cycle breakers, the ones who can see the patterns they're stuck in. You know how it's affecting you. You know deep down that you're ready for something different. If you've got that pull for more self-worth, more self-love, more ease in how you show up in your life, then this podcast is made for you. So welcome. Just a quick note, this podcast isn't therapy. It's my own reflections, insights, and what I'm learning and inspired by along the way. I bring in my intuitive coaching, so my therapist hat, somatic and attachment-based approaches, and things I'm reading and exploring. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and let's grow together. I wonder if you can relate to this, because a lot of people tell me when they're trying to think and feel even in more balanced ways, working hard, so hard to have more self-love, more compassion, to build self-esteem, to make changes, get outside of your comfort zone, create something new for yourself, trying your absolute best to break old cycles. You know, instead of those old first automatic thoughts being negative or self-defeating, you are trying to be more balanced and zoom out and look at things in this more flexible way from a different perspective. Now, despite all this work, all this learning, for some of you, the investment of your, not just your time and your energy, your finances into therapy and coaching and courses and books. And when it comes to being in your own minds or triggered moments, that you can feel like you are arguing with yourself. It can feel like there are two sides in your head constantly going back and forth. One part says I'm enough, and the other part immediately jumps in with, yeah, but are you? Because if you were, you would have X by now. Or you think, I am smart. And then this other little voice says, are you though? Because you made that mistake. It can be even something as simple as telling yourself, you know what, things are going to be okay. And then there's that voice that challenges it saying, but will they? Because you don't actually know that for sure. If you get that, if those examples speak to you, comment. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, just comment with the number 1. I really want to know who relates to this. Do you feel like there are different parts of you arguing and contradicting each other? Comment number 1 if you do. If you're not on Spotify or YouTube, then come over to my Instagram. Connect with me there. I absolutely love it. And when you do this, to know that you've taken the time out of your day, out of listening to this podcast to actually connect with me and leave me a message, it just... it warms my heart. But come over, Carly-Ann_therapy, and leave a 1. Just drop it straight in the DMs. I love that moment when I feel connected, knowing like, oh, wow, other people feel this too. Other people are doing this work and they get that. No shame. We're just owning it. That's what it takes. We're here breaking cycles. That's some kind of mission that we're on. And it takes us owning it, owning these patterns, owning like, yeah, I have this kind of old self, new self arguing. And you know what? It often doesn't feel good. So many people assume this internal back and forth means something is wrong. I'm not healing properly. It's not working for me. I can't change like other people. Like you're too negative or something, or too stuck. I'm not mentally strong enough, whatever it is, whatever the narrative that you're telling yourself. But what if that is not what's actually happening? What if this isn't a flaw, but a very human response to change? Very human response to when we're trying to change these old, deep-rooted beliefs and thoughts that we hold. Because that critical side that's arguing, it doesn't come from nowhere. At some point, it was usually formed around experiences or a moment in time when something significant happened, maybe a moment when you felt embarrassed, rejected, hurt, or unsafe in some way. Your mind is so incredibly good at learning patterns from those moments, and it builds these internal voices, these deep subconscious beliefs that really influence how we see the world, how we see other people, how we see ourselves. And, we can really look at it that these internal voices, this one that's arguing, that maybe you feel fed up with, that actually it's trying to prevent you from experiencing more pain. It doesn't want you to mess up. It doesn't want to get rejected. It doesn't want to get things wrong. It doesn't want you to feel let down. Of course, what we know is that in order to expand, to stretch, and to grow ourselves, and to have that life that we envision and really, truly desire, we have to risk messing up and rejection and getting it wrong. And sometimes we have to make mistakes. But this part of you that is beating you up and coming back and arguing all the time, it really doesn't want that for you. So on the surface, it feels like there's this kind of other part of you just not healing, not letting you move on. But underneath it, it's protection. And it's not very kind in how it goes about protecting you as an adult. Now, the problem is the more that we argue with these voices, the stronger the fight becomes, because now it's not just trying to protect us, it's also trying to be heard. You're trying to be heard with everything that you're learning and these new beliefs that you're trying to form and the affirmations that you're listening to and the techniques that you're using to feel calmer in your body. And it ends up being like that you're digging your heels in, this part's digging its heels in, and there's that internal fight. So here's what I'm suggesting. Instead of arguing with it, instead of going back and forth and having this internal dialogue, I want you to try something different. I want you to try meeting that part of you that kind of says, yeah, but no way. No, this isn't true. You can't do it. I want you to try meeting it with a bit of understanding instead, not agreeing with what it says, not letting it run your life anymore, but just changing the relationship that you have with it. Instead of treating it like something you have to win against, try seeing it more like a part of you that's trying to help in its own way, but it's clumsy, it's outdated. That's where a lot of the inner child work comes in that I'm talking about, that I'm supporting people with, is how do we communicate with that inner child in a really loving way so that we're not continuing to abandon or reject these parts of us. I'm just pausing because I have a free invite. I want to let you know about the Self-Worth Reset. It's all about you having a safe space held by myself, like I said, coach and therapist. It's really supporting you to check in with your wounds, low self-esteem. Carving out intentional time to check in with yourself is so crucial for your healing, for personal development. So this free call that I'm running is perfect if you're feeling lost, triggered, inferior, not good enough, or just slightly off, and you're having this internal goal of wanting to work on your self-esteem. And you know that taking 30 minutes every now and then with yourself gives you a boost, helps you to step away from whatever it is that's been hijacking you recently and allowing you to pause and reconnect with yourself. I know it can be daunting to attend these things, especially if social anxiety or low self-esteem, low confidence are part of your difficulty. That's why you're so welcome on this free call to have your camera and mic off. There is absolutely no pressure. Of course, I invite you to participate if that that speaks to you. Lots of people have their camera and mic off, so honestly, no pressure. You can listen in, and my promise is that I will never put you on the spot. I'm also now offering single session therapy or coaching. Sometimes you don't need or want months of support right now. You just need a focused space to really work through something that's been sitting with you. This is a 2-hour session dedicated entirely to you with a 15-minute breather. We'll go straight into one issue you've been struggling with and actually move through it together. I'll check in throughout to make sure we're focusing on what you want and what you came to this 2-hour session for. Before the session, you'll fill out a short questionnaire so I can understand what's going on for you and what you'd love to shift. If something has been weighing on you and you're ready to shift it, this is such a powerful space to do that. For both of those ways of working with me, whether it's the free one or whether it's a single session, you can go to the description and learn all about it right there. When you feel like you're in that moment where you're having that internal argument, that angel and devil on your shoulder, instead of trying to build up a case to prove one of the sides right or wrong, pause for a moment, put the evidence aside, and just say something like, I notice this internal battle. I'm noticing that one part of me feels this and another part of me feels this. I see that one part of me is really worried right now, and it makes sense. I get it. Honestly, that alone, that kind of tone, that kind of understanding of this conflict can change everything. You're not trying to push anything away. You're not getting more critical. You're literally just starting this kind of different inner conversation. You're getting curious. Curious is key. Something like, you can begin to go deeper. You can ask these different parts. What are you trying to protect me from? What would you think would happen if you didn't show up like this? When did you first start feeling like you had to speak to me in this way? Do be careful with these conversations. If it feels like too much, do this with support, absolutely. Often when we have these new conversations, when we actually pause to listen, there's something so surprisingly simple underneath it all. It's unconscious at the moment, but we can bring it into our awareness. A part of you that's trying to keep you from repeating something painful, a part of you that thinks being strict will keep you safe, a part of you that witnessed being strict and just that's now the pattern it falls into, a part of you that doesn't really know a softer way to help you. When that part finally feels like it's being heard, not solved, not fixed, but being heard, instead of fighting, something interesting often begins to happen. It doesn't need to shout as loud anymore. You don't have to get rid of all of these parts of yourself to feel better. You don't have to be thinking in the perfect way to feel better. You don't have to believe every positive thought to feel better. Trying to get rid of negative thoughts usually just makes them louder. It's more about changing how you relate to them. You guys know, I'm a modern CBT therapist. Of course, I believe in challenging our thoughts, of changing our deep-rooted beliefs. Absolutely. There's a time and place for that. When we're having an internal fight, we don't need to be giving ourselves a hard time. We don't need to be sitting in this this kind of resistance. So sometimes we're just changing how we relate to the thoughts that we're having. The goal isn't to have a completely quiet mind. That's usually not realistic for most people. Maybe that is your goal. I shouldn't really say that, but you know what I mean. We're not going to have like a silent mind. The goal is usually to stop living like your thoughts are enemies, like you have to do everything that your thoughts say and believe everything, that your thoughts tell you. When you start relating to yourself with more patience, more understanding, more self-love, something really powerful does happen. Because for you and for me, I don't want us, but for you, I really do as well. My community means something to me, and I know that we tend to relate to each other. There are similarities in our journey. And what I mean by that is I don't want for us to be living in this internal tension. I want us to experience, that feeling of being content, a calm nervous system, understanding, okay, thoughts are complex and they can contradict each other and feel like an argument at times, but that doesn't mean that I have to get lost right now. It doesn't mean that I have to lose myself. It doesn't mean that I have to get stuck in this moment of distress. In this space of compassion and understanding and really radical acceptance, you can access something kinder. You can improve your confidence. This is kind of a way of moving through life with more psychological flexibility, right? Without such high standards on yourself, but of instead having a self-understanding. And perhaps that's the real shift. Not trying to win the argument in your head or prove to a part of you that I am enough. If part of you really isn't believing that right now, are you going to waste the next few hours or day trying to convince it? We're going to be curious about the fact it doesn't believe it right now. Finally realizing that you're not meant to fight with yourself in the first place. So here's one simple thing for you to try over the next week or so. When you notice that critical thought, the self-doubting voice show up, that internal argument that can take off, instead of arguing with it, instead of coming up with all the evidence, just mentally say, or you can say it out loud, you can say it in the mirror, I hear you. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm noticing you. I know that you're there. You make sense. And then you can move on with what you're doing. That's it. No analysing it, no proving it wrong, no trying to fix yourself in that moment. Just that really subtle shift from resistance to acceptance and acknowledgement. See what happens. Experiment with this. Have one day where you are still trying to argue with it. Then have another day where you're being more curious and compassionate with it. And then go back to arguing with it. And then go back to the more compassionate, understanding curiosity for a day. And then from there, you can compare which one feels better for you. Because it's you that gets to make the decision in the end. What feels better for you? What way of relating to these thoughts feels better for you in your well-being and your future? Guys, thank you for listening to Lessons in Self-Worth. If you're returning, welcome back. I absolutely love that you are coming back to this space. If you're brand new here, welcome. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you don't miss a future one. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or a review. I don't get any reviews, so that would be amazing. And don't forget to check the links in the description to work with me directly. Just learn a bit more about me. And of course, sign up to the Self-Worth Reset. If you are working on your self-esteem, sign up to the Self-Worth Reset. Because even if you can't attend live, only through signing up will you get the replay. So it's definitely worth it.